Put your phone down for just 5 minutes and listen closely. While you've been scrolling through day in the life videos of perfectly productive teens, I've uncovered the 7 things you must quit to become disciplined. These aren't the typical tips of make your bed. These are the hidden habits that keep you stuck in the lazy cycle while you watch everyone else succeed. I've been exactly where you are, struggling to stay focused while watching others seemingly achieve everything effortlessly. Through research and experimentation, I've identified what really separates disciplined people from everyone else. I'm not claiming to be a productivity expert. I'm sharing what I've learned through research and personal experience. These strategies have worked for me, and it's not just theory from a textbook. And what I discovered surprised me. It's not about superhuman willpower, it's about eliminating these specific 7 barriers. Most videos tell you what habit to start, but they have it backward. Real transformation happens when you identify and quit the things that are silently destroying your productivity. Let's start with number 1. Quit environmental sabotage. Look around your room right now. Is your phone within arm's reach? Are notifications turned on? Is the gaming system visible? Are snacks nearby? That's environmental sabotage, and it's the first thing you need to quit. Your willpower is limited. Putting yourself in environments full of temptations and then trying to resist them is like putting a chocolate cake in front of yourself and saying don't eat it for hours. Eventually, you will cave. The science here is called attention residue. Every time you switch tasks, part of your focus gets left behind. Every time you get distracted, it takes about 23 minutes for your brain to fully refocus. So those quick checks of your phone are destroying your concentration. So how do you quit this habit? Create a focus zone, a physical or digital space with 0 distractions. Use apps like Forest or Cold Turkey to block distractions for digital work. For physical spaces, create a clear separation between where you relax and where you work. When I need to focus on an important project, I change my environment completely. The phone goes to another room, notifications turned off, clean workspace. The difference in my productivity is night and day. Stop fighting your environment and start designing it to make discipline feel easy. Your willpower shouldn't be wasted on resisting obvious temptations. Which brings us to number 2. Quit waiting for inspiration. Have you ever stared at your homework thinking, I don't feel like doing this right now, I'll wait till I'm in the mood? This is inspiration dependency, the second thing you need to quit. Here's the truth. Disciplined people don't wait for motivation. They act first and the motivation follows. I experienced this firsthand with my gym routine. Getting up at 4 a.m. 5 times a week to hit the gym. Trust me, there's rarely a morning when I feel like doing that. If I waited for inspiration to strike, I would never go. But I've learned to get up and start moving. And something interesting happens. Once I'm at the gym and into my workout, the energy and motivation shows up. This isn't just my experience. The science is clear on this. Your brain releases dopamine and other feel-good chemicals after you start making progress, not before. So how do you quit this habit? Use the 10-minute rule. Just commit to 10 minutes of what you're avoiding. Set a timer, put your phone away, and start. After 10 minutes, you can quit if you want to. But here's the thing. You usually won't want to. The hardest part is just starting. Stop waiting to feel motivated and start taking action. The motivation will follow, not lead. If you're finding this helpful so far, a quick tap on the subscribe button will help more than you know. Let's move on to number 3. Quit future self-offloading. Do you ever think I'll start my essay tomorrow or I'll clean my room this weekend? That's future self-offloading, the third thing you need to quit. You're basically taking all the things you don't want to do today and dumping them on future you. And guess what? Future you is not going to be any more motivated than present you. In fact, they'll probably be annoyed because you left them with more work. The science behind this is called present bias. It just means your brain dramatically overvalues right now and undervalues the future. Your brain values immediate rewards about 10 times more than future rewards, even if the future rewards are objectively better. So how do you quit this habit? Use the do it for 5 technique. If something takes less than 5 minutes, do it immediately, no exceptions. Got an assignment, spend 5 minutes breaking it down into parts. Got a messy room, spend 5 minutes just picking up things from the floor. These small actions prevent the build-up that overwhelms future you. After that, using this for everything from answering emails to organizing my notes. Instead of saying, I'll handle it later, I ask myself, can I do this in 5 minutes or less? If so, I will do it immediately. This simple change has eliminated that constant feeling of dread from knowing there's a pile of tasks waiting for me. Protect your future self by taking small actions today. Your tomorrow self will thank you. Which brings us to number 4. Quit your identity stories. You know those stories you tell yourself? I'm not a morning person. I've always been disorganized. I'm terrible at math. These aren't just thoughts, they're identity stories, and the fourth thing you have to quit. Your brain is constantly looking for evidence to support what you already believe. Tell yourself you're lazy, and your brain will find every example of when you procrastinated and ignore all the times you worked hard. The science shows this is called self-perception theory. In simple terms, you become what you repeatedly tell yourself you are. So how do you quit this? Start with this phrase: I'm experimenting with being someone who ... Instead of I'm not disciplined, try I'm experimenting with someone who follows through on commitments. This works because it doesn't trigger your brain's defensive mechanisms. You're not claiming a new identity, you're just trying something new. I tried this myself when I wanted to start waking up at 4 a.m. Usually, I wake up whenever I wake up. I had this story that I'm not a morning person and early rising just isn't for me. But instead of forcing myself to become an early riser overnight, I started saying I'm experimenting with being someone who wakes up at 4 a.m. This slight shift took away all the pressure and resistance. If I slept in, I wasn't feeling at being a morning person, I was gathering data for my experiment. This mindset shift made it so much easier to actually make the change. Stop telling yourself stories about who you are and start experimenting with who you could be. That's how you break free from lazy habits. Which brings us to number 5. Quit the all or nothing mentality. Have you ever thought, if I can't study for 3 hours, why bother studying? That's the all or nothing mentality. Most people think that meaningful progress requires massive action. However, the research says the opposite is true. Small, consistent steps actually lead to bigger results over time. This is called the progress principle. Your brain gets a happiness boost from any forward movement, no matter how small. And these small wins build momentum. So how do you quit this perfectionist thinking? Try micro commitments. Instead of saying I'll study all night, say I'll study for 10 minutes between TikTok sessions. Micro commitments work because they fly under your brain's resistance radar. 10 minutes doesn't sound scary, but often once you start, you keep going. I've applied this to learning new skills. Instead of trying to master something in one weekend, I commit to just 15 minutes of practice each day. Those small sessions add up and are more likely to stick with it long term. Remember, something beats nothing. Perfect is the enemy of done, and small steps consistently taken will get you further than perfect steps never taken. Which brings us to number 6. Quit dopamine dependency. Have you ever opened a textbook and immediately felt bored? Or tried to listen to a lecture and felt like you were dying of boredom? That's dopamine dependency. Apps, games, and social media are designed to give you constant hits of dopamine, which is the brain's reward chemical. The problem is that this makes normal activities like reading or studying feel unbearably boring in comparison. It's like eating candy all day and then trying to enjoy a plain apple. Your taste buds are so overwhelmed that healthy food tastes like nothing. So how do you quit this habit? Try dopamine detox. Starting with just 30 minutes a day of low stimulation activities. Begin with a small window, like 30 minutes before bed with no screens, where you read a physical book or maybe write in your journal or even sit down quietly. It will feel weird at first, but over time your brain recalibrates and normal activities feel enjoyable again. I started using timers on my phone for social media usage. I was shocked to discover how often I was reaching for my phone and how much time was disappearing without me even realizing it. By setting strict time limits for apps like TikTok and Instagram, I forced myself to experience normal activities again. The first few days were tough, but soon I noticed I could focus better on reading and I actually started enjoying them more. Reset your brain's reward system by taking small breaks from constant stimulation. You'll be amazed at how much more engaging regular life becomes. Which brings us to number 7. Quit overthinking before starting. Have you ever spent hours researching the perfect study method instead of studying, or created an elaborate color-coded schedule that you never actually follow? That's success buffering. Success buffering is when you put unnecessary steps between yourself and your goal. Your brain loves this because planning feels productive, but doesn't require the discomfort of actual work. The science here is about analysis paralysis. The more options and systems you create, the harder it is to start. Each additional step becomes another excuse not to begin. So how do you quit this habit? Use the just start anywhere approach. Pick any part of the task. Doesn't matter if it is the right part, and just begin. For essays, this might mean writing the conclusion first. For studying, it might mean testing yourself on one concept rather than creating the perfect study guide. For cleaning, it might mean starting with whatever item is the closest to you. I've fallen into this trap so many times with my own projects. I'll spend hours planning the perfect video, researching all the angles, creating elaborate outlines, but never actually filmed anything. Now I force myself to start recording even though I don't feel completely ready. I can always edit later, but I can't edit what doesn't exist. Stop preparing to start and start. You can constantly adjust course along the way. Now that you've learned what to remove to go from lazy to discipline, you need to fill that space with the proper habits so that the old patterns don't creep back in. To do so, you need to watch this video, 7 habits you need to go from lazy to highly disciplined. If you found value in this video, hit that subscribe button if you want to be disciplined. Remember, the path is yours to walk, and as always, I'm in your corner rooting for you.